So I want to ask you a question that you've probably never been asked before. And it's this: are you a mystic? If you can feel like you can claim that, yeah, raise your hand. If you go, yeah, I can claim that as my own. Those of you online, maybe give me a little thumbs up. For those who weren't comfortable in raising their hand at this moment, it's probably because you associate that word mystic with yogis and saints and other famous people who have been reported throughout time. But listen to this common definition of what a mystic is, and maybe then you might be a little closer to saying yes. So a mystic is someone who seeks and experiences communion with the divine in order to achieve a deeper understanding of the eternal spiritual realm beyond ordinary knowledge. Think about that again. So it's really anyone who seeks and experiences communion with the divine in order to achieve a deeper understanding of the eternal spiritual realm that we can't know through our human experiences. Mystics are found in every religion, in every culture, young, old, and they've been reported through the history of humankind. Most would say it's impossible to describe with language those who have had these kinds of experiences, although many have tried. There are the Eastern mystics like Rumi and Gibran and Kabir, who offer poetic writings for us to contemplate this mystery. Others, like Buddha, offer teachings and practices that become a roadmap for others to follow. Many saints, like Teresa of Avila or Saint Francis of Assisi, devoted themselves to this path through prayer and meditation. There's lots of other modern-day mystics that include people in the last century or so from the Transcendentalist movement, people like Ralph Waldo Emerson or Henry Thoreau, and New Thought mystics like our co-founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the Unity Poet Laureate James Dillett Freeman. We say his words every week at the end of our service in our prayer for protection. We can open the way for these mystical experiences as we are able to transcend established belief systems. You got to move beyond maybe some of those belief systems you've been carrying around for a while, bypassing the intellect and dissolving the identity of who we are as an ego or a personality self. It's not easy to do because we identify with that part of us more often than we don't. Most describe it as a sense of oneness with the universe. All awareness of time and space or separateness seems to disappear. The Buddha described it as nirvana. It takes some practice to be able to let go of what we think about things and to dissolve our sense of separate self. I know many of you, like me, have been meditating for years, seeking this transcendent state. And in my case, after a number of decades, I can only recall 4 instances when I experienced, even for a brief moment, this space of oneness. And only one of those happened during meditation. The others came upon me quite unexpectedly. One of my most memorable ones happened when I was up at Unity Village a number of years ago. And it's intense when you go up there to take classes. You are about 8 hours, you are around people all the time. So my norm was to, after we did our dinner and we were done for the evening, to go off for a walk by myself on the grounds, just to try and decompress and let go and simply be for a little while. And it's a beautiful place to walk, and I always felt 100% safe to go anywhere and by myself and not have to worry about anything. So as I was walking down this trail, I came upon this kind of clearing, and there was a picnic table. There was like a little picnic area. There was kind of scattered throughout the grounds, and I thought, oh, I'll go take a rest. And as I was walking towards it, I noticed over here was this deer sitting down on the ground, just sitting there. And so I thought, oh, how cool is this? So I tried to be a little quieter and gentler and slower, and eventually made my way to the picnic table. The deer hadn't moved, and I sat down, and we were facing each other. And for probably about, I don't know why this thing is being so poofy today, but we were sitting there just looking into each other's eyes. This deer just sat there and stared at me. And as I stared at the deer, after a few minutes, it was like our sense of separateness it's like they said, it's really hard to describe this, but that sense of separateness, of even our bodies there, it was like we were communing soul to soul. And it was like we were communing in a realm that wasn't physical. It was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. And it happened just sort of out of the blue. I think it happened because I was open to it. I was immersed in this spiritual exploration that whole week. But I just sat there, and we probably sat there like that for about 10 minutes. And then the deer just quietly got up and gently sauntered off into the woods. And I sat there just stunned at this realization of how interconnected all of life is, because that's what I felt, that there was this like connection with all things. And the glow of it lasted for a good day or so. It was like I was just floating in a different kind of being as a result of this. And then, of course, reality of the day-to-day human life kicks in, and we tend to sort of lose that. It stayed with me in my heart, but it's hard to bring it back up to the fullness of that experience in the moment. A mystic, what I'm discovering too, is someone who seeks to share not from what they know, rather from what wants to be known. I want you to think about that for a minute. It's not about sharing what we know. It is about willing to be in that presence and share what wants to be known. One of the ways I work with that on a regular basis is say, just each week, what would you have me say? What would you have me share? What would you have me? And that is my indication to go, I don't want to tell you what I know about it. I want to see what's seeking to arise out of that idea of it. It's interesting, when I searched the list of mystics, and there's lots out there, we have such a robust ability to tap into the history that's now out on the internet. Even going back to Egyptian times, what I found interesting was Jesus wasn't listed on any of those lists. Perhaps it's because in Christianity, Jesus is seen as a savior, which is a different thing, or in other religions as a prophet or a master teacher, a rabbi. Marianne Williamson seeks to uncover the mystic Jesus, both as a man who walked on this earth more than 2,000 years ago, and as a spirit alive in each of us today. The author approaches this topic not as a Christian, she was actually raised in the Jewish tradition, nor as a scholar, but she speaks from decades of studying something called A Course in Miracles, which was also her inspiration for writing her most well-known book, A Return to Love. She's an interesting woman. She's run for president a couple times. I'm not sure if you know that. She suggested that we need to really create we've got the cabinet of war, that we need a cabinet of peace would be a good place to start. And for those unfamiliar with A Course in Miracles, it was published in the 70s, and it's a transcript of material that a woman named Helen Schuckman received from this inner voice that said, write this down. And so she just started dictating what she was hearing. Now, she also wasn't a Christian. And later, as she was willing to be in this process, she resisted it for a while, but as the voice was persistent, it was later identified, at least from her understanding, as the voice of Jesus, wanting to offer a more spiritual, a more metaphysical, a more truer understanding of his teachings than what had evolved over the 2,000 years since he'd been on the earth. She was very reluctant to publish it. She was an assistant to a professor of psychology, so he took an interest in this and he decided it really needed to be published. She insisted her name not be attached to it, and she never promoted it. She would never go out on the road. There were other people who took that mantle up and promoted it. And it quickly gained momentum. Now there are hundreds of thousands of people who currently either study it or have studied in the past, both alone and in more than 2,000 groups around the world today. Many Unity churches will offer A Course in Miracles. I've tried to work with it, and I'm just going to tell you, for me personally, in fact, I did it on a Wednesday night for a year here in my first iteration here, probably back in 2005 or 2006, so that I could hopefully get it a little bit better, and I still didn't after a year, but it speaks to many people. And Marianne writes that Jesus is someone whose mind was purified of any thoughts of separation or illusion. And the Christ presence is available to each of us as an internal teacher, an evolutionary guide back to the primordial oneness to which our souls long to return. Jesus often tried to describe this relationship that he had. He would say, well, the Father and I are one. Or to others, he would say, well, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. People didn't really quite get what that meant, but he was living in that unified field. And he was beckoning others to come and join him. So that's an invitation for each of us today, to see if we can tap in to that unified field as we move into a time of inward reflection and connection. So I just invite you to take a moment to set aside anything you might be holding on to just get into a position where your body is comfortable. Sometimes it's easier to close your eyes or just focus on some point in the room so that you can bring all of your attention to this inner state of being. As you take a few deep breaths, bringing you into this present moment, for that is always where the breath exists. And bring your attention down to the soles of your feet. And imagine your soles having roots growing out of the bottom of them, moving deep down into the earth, anchoring you in part in this physical space, drawing up the nourishment of Mother Nature and Earth, the wisdom of its long evolution. Draw it up into your heart. Imagine that your heart is now vibrating with this very energy of wisdom, of love. And then bring your attention down into the floor of your pelvic area, that place where we can tap into our gut feelings, our intuition, the spiritual womb. For it is in that spiritual womb and in our heart space that we can enter into this unified, mystical field of oneness. And just allow your being to contemplate these words from Rumi. See what arises in your own heart space, in your own intuition. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Where the soul lies down in the grass, and the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, and even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. Listen now at a deeper level. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Where the soul lies down in that grass, and the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, and even the phrase each other doesn't make sense in this place. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. Just take a minute and see if you can't experience yourself in this field of oneness as we rest for a few moments in the silence. And then as you're ready, begin to bring your attention back to this time and space, fully awake to all that this unified field is here to show and to share and to experience through you. Aware once again of your breath, the body that is allowing you to have this spiritual experience in this physical world. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So there's a passage in A Course in Miracles that really resonated with me as I was moving through this material. It seems like it's really an important thing for us to begin to grasp. And it says this: in a realm beyond what our physical senses perceive, there is no place where you stop and I start. And here's what I want you to hear the most. In judging you, I am judging myself. In attacking you, I am attacking myself. Whatever I give to you, I give to myself. As we realize this higher truth, notions of separate identities and conflicting needs are dissolved into the nothingness from which they came. As we realize we are spiritually one, we become generous out of self-interest. If we really knew that what I say to you, I am saying and believing about myself, how different would we speak to one another? How different would we engage with one another and be generous with one another? It's in our self-interest that we begin to know. Jesus said it this way. He says, he said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But I think it got misinterpreted. I think what he was really saying is, from this mystical place, as you do unto one another, you do to yourself. So I leave that with you to see how that shows up for you and how you can begin to recognize when you are being a conduit of oneness and when you are being the disruptor of that flow. For the rest of the month, we're going to be exploring how we can move beyond this Newtonian physical model of cause and effect to the realm of unity, of oneness, which is the very essence of love. Spirit is alive in you, and it's alive in me. Our only work is to make it welcome. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial good with Center of Unity. It is through you as the many channels and the other ways in which we receive our good that we can continue to be this space where people can come and discover who they are as spiritual beings. It is the first Sunday. Can you believe it? It's March already. It's the first Sunday of March, and so this is also an opportunity to remind you that if you find that you can add a little bit to our reserve fund, we would love to continue to build that up. We are grateful right now to be in a place of being debt-free, and we know we might have a little more expenses coming up when we have to renew our insurance in June. So we're actively working on making sure that we have enough reserves to cover that. We're grateful for all the ways in which you support us, and we are grateful for the opportunity and the ability to give to this spiritual community. And we join in our hands, in our hearts, all that we share and bless it. Together, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God. And so as we go into this week, seeking to connect with that divine part of ourselves that is interconnected with all of life, we go knowing our prayer for protection. We'll do it as a call and response. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.